Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear viewers, and welcome back to Women's View on Ahlulbayt TV. Now, if you're watching for the past hour of today's show, you would know our topic today is about our responsibilities in the absence of Imam Mahdi. As I said before the break, and as my guest echoed, that we have a huge responsibility in the absence of our imams, and we have many duties that we can carry out. However, when we look within our communities, we see that there is a lack of awareness about Imam Mahdi. There's a lack of duties or events which serve in the absence of Imam Mahdi. So before the break, we mentioned many hadiths which describe this time period we're living in. We also mentioned some of the responsibilities we have, how we should be spending our time, and how we can prepare ourselves for the reappearance of Imam Mahdi. We read out many of your comments and emails, so inshallah now I'll be reading out more of your emails and comments, and inshallah trying to address them in today's show. We have about 25 minutes left of today's show, so if anyone has any comments they would like to say, then please do feel free to contact us on Women's View at Ahlulbayt.tv. All details should be on the screen in and out today's show, or you can post any comments on Facebook or Twitter. So inshallah we'll be reading them all out. I'm your host Zahra Al-Alawi, and today with me is Sister Zahira Mamdani. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back. We have some more comments coming through. We were discussing before the break, I believe, preparing for Imam Mahdi. Yep. And did you finish on your point right before?
Yeah, no, I finished.
Sometimes I just cut people out. But okay, we have a comment from a sister called Sayyida Kawthar Naqvi, and she posts this on my Facebook page, so not the Ahlulbayt TV or Women's View, so it's my Facebook page. She says, Assalamu alaikum to both sisters. May God bless you. Excellent topic. Unfortunately, within our own communities, we have neglected the Imam. There are many hadiths, and some can be looked in from the book Reconciliation with the Imam of Age, where Imams have said to make awareness of Imam Mahdi, as he is madloom because believers are not calling for his reappearance. Imam al-Hussein told one of the jurists of Qom in a vision, our Mahdi is a victim of his time. Speak about him, write about him as much as you can. When you speak about this Imam, you have said about all the Imams are all at purity, walaya and imamat. Imam al-Hussein ended his words saying, again I stress to tell the people more and more about the Imam. He is oppressed. Why are the scholars not making more awareness of the Imam within our own communities, let alone others? I think it's time to wake up before it's too late. So a very powerful message from Sister Sayyida Kawthar Naqvi. And what would you say regarding that? As she said that many of the Imams say that this Imam is madloom because he's not mentioned, he's not spoken about much. So she said that why aren't scholars making more awareness within our communities, let alone others?
I think there's two sides to this. Of course, the scholars also have a responsibility to, write books and speak about the Imam. But if you look at it, if you look at the proportion of scholars amongst all of the Shi'as, there's a lot more followers of scholars, or there's a lot more of us, for example, who aren't scholars than the scholars themselves. And I think perhaps part of the problem in not having enough awareness is that not enough people take information from the scholars. How many of us actually go on the internet and search for a book about the Imam? And so, of course, we do need more material on the Imam, but also at the same time, those of us who aren't scholars, we also need to utilize the scholars' material that they have written about the Imam and spread that as well, because there's more of us than there are of them.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, I don't want to underestimate any scholars. There's many books that have been written and lectures. But like you said, it's not just the responsibilities of the scholars. I mean, the scholars can deliver at a certain level, and then it's us which can deliver on the community level. And there's many youth within our community, especially we've done some shows where, social shows on Women's View, and sometimes people email in, and it's many youth that they don't connect with scholars, and they usually email us with questions and comments and about their lives, because they don't really connect to scholars that much, so they don't listen to many lectures or anything like that. They feel disconnected. And I think with our generation today, and many youth which live within our communities, you see the youth that go to high school and stuff, they don't really connect, they don't really attend many lectures. So I think sometimes it's our responsibility as well to create that awareness. And if both the scholars and us and our communities create all that awareness, then it will be greater.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Just adding on to that, I mean, as you said that we should create awareness, I know you mentioned a lot of stuff, but do you feel that the communities in a larger scale, just on touching up on the sister, she mentions that there is lack of awareness, and I agree with you, there is lack of awareness, because you go to some people and you say, how much do you know about Imam Mahdi, honestly, about his birth, the situation about his birth, there is a whole story about the way he was born, what his mother went through pregnancy. Yeah. There's so much about the Imam, about his why he went into ghaiba. And you tell many people, they're like, we don't know that much. Yeah. We know the basics, but they don't know much about the Imam. So
I think it can be said for a lot of Imams. For example, Imam Hussein alayhi salam. A friend of mine was saying to me the other day that we do so much for the Imam. We have majalis, we have events, we go to so many lectures, and we know his tragedy. And that's about all we know. If someone came up to me and said, okay, I want you to quote a hadith from Imam Hussein alayhi salam, I personally would struggle to quote more than a couple.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same with Imam Mahdi. We know the basic gist, okay, the Imam is in ghaiba, we can't see him, and that's about all we know. And like I said, we need to inform ourselves about all these details, because then the situation becomes a lot more real to us, and it kind of motivates us to prepare ourselves as well.
Yeah, that's definitely true. We have some more questions coming through. This is posted on the Ahlulbayt TV page, and it's posted by someone called Bahlul Majnoon, but I'm sure that's not his real name. But it says, I've got a question. What advice do you give to the Bahraini people in the absence of the Imam? Ajallah Ta'ala Faraja. Is it better for them to wait for him, or should they be optimistic that they will succeed in this age?
Funnily enough, when I was reading through the list of duties, one of the duties that we have during the absence of the Imam is to oppose the oppressors. So I think that really speaks for itself. It's our responsibility to speak out against oppressive regimes, because although that's exactly what the Imam will topple, like I said, we can't kind of leave everything and say, yeah, we'll change overnight when the Imam comes. I think we still have a responsibility. And also, I think the fact that we believe in an Imam that's going to come, it gives us hope. And while the Bahraini people are in that struggle, I think it gives many of them hope to know that none of their actions are going in vain, because there will be an Imam who will come and bring justice.
Definitely, yeah. It's quite interesting that he said that, because there was previous questions posed to us in terms of, if we say that Imam Mahdi will bring the ultimate justice, then we're trying to fight for justice that will never achieve it, because Imam Mahdi is going to come when the world is in a state of injustice. But like you said, there's so many hadith which talk about fighting for the oppressed and fighting injustice and fighting the oppressors. And there's actually a very interesting book. I'm sure many people have heard of this book, Khutbat al-Bayan, but I know that people actually say that they have doubts whether this book is actually authentic because of a khutbah about Imam Ali, where Imam Ali praises himself. I mean, there's anyway, not going into whether or not the level of how authentic it is, but in Khutbat al-Bayan, it actually speaks about the oppression that happens in Bahrain, and it speaks about that in details. And Bahrain wasn't called Bahrain in the time of the Imams, it was called Jazirat. I forgot the exact name regarding it, but it actually talks about Bahrain in Khutbat al-Bayan, and it says that when you see oppression happening in Bahrain, that's when you know that Imam al-Mahdi's reappearance is near. And it speaks about it in details, and it's actually scary, because what Khutbat al-Bayan talks about Bahrain is actually happening now. So I actually went and I looked at some of the chapters within this book, and it was really, really scary, because it's actually happening now, exactly what was mentioned in that book. And I don't know whether people think is how authentic it is, but even we have a hadith about Iraq, that Iraq would never have justice until the reappearance of the Imam. But it doesn't stop our responsibilities as well, because we are always told by the Imams that we should fight injustice, and that shows our belief. So I think the Bahraini people should carry on in standing up, because if you don't stand up with the oppressed, then you are aiding the oppressors.
Definitely.
Yeah, so I hope that answers the brother's question, and I really advise everyone to read Khutbat al-Bayan, because you'll see exactly what's happening now. And I just want to mention one thing that reminds me, because as people know that I do come from Bahrain, so when all this happened, it just made me go and read many of the what the hadith says about this small island, and it was really scary, because there's even God forbid, I hope that justice comes to Bahrain, but there's even a hadith by the Imam that says that if there will come a time there will be so much oppression in Bahrain. If I was a bird, I wouldn't even land in a branch on a tree in Bahrain. So when I read that, I said, inshallah, I hope that Bahrain receives justice and nothing happens. But when I read that, I thought, I don't know what's going to happen, but the Imam Mahdi will come when the whole world is oppressed. So there's injustice everywhere. And there's another hadith, sorry, I'm just
it's fine.
This is really the brothers opened like a pathway where I've just recently read about this, so it's fresh in my mind, that it says that Imam Mahdi will reappear when basically there is no country in the world which has a strong rulership. So they said that first in the east, all the rulers, all the nations will rise up against the rulers, and all the rulers will become weak. And then in the west, all the rulers will rise up, and their rulers will be weak. So Imam Mahdi will come when there's no power in the world. So when he rises with full power, and he's able to control everything, because no one has that power. But
that's really interesting, because a while back I was reading, and I was reading something about the reasons for the Imam's ghaiba. One of the reasons was that ghaibat al-kubra is there so that there's enough time for every government and every power to have a chance at ruling, so that when the Imam comes, no one can say, oh, well, if I had been given power, I would have done that. So I found that quite interesting as well.
That is actually quite interesting. And when we go into this, that's why I'm saying that people should read and educate themselves, because when you read these things, it just opens up areas in your mind that you're thinking, oh my God, this it's not exactly what we see. But I do pray for the reappearance of our Mahdi, and I pray honestly for all the oppressed around the world. And I know many countries, Egypt, Libya, Bahrain, Syria, there are many people around the world that are oppressed and are really struggling to stand up against the oppressors. But inshallah, we see justice. Inshallah soon. I had just before we end off that I wanted to ask you in terms of this. I mean, what makes this time period? We mentioned many hadith at the beginning of the show that we described in this time period. But what makes this time period different to the time periods of when the prophets were present or the imams were present? So those generations which had a prophet present or an imam present that they could go to, or he was there, spreading the true message of Islam. What makes our time period different to theirs?
When I was reading today, I came across the hadith that I'm sure a lot of us have heard, where I think it's Imam Sadiq that says that during the occultation of the Imam, the people will benefit from him like how the earth benefits from the sun when it's behind the clouds. And also I was thinking, and I thought that our duties towards the Imam don't really change whether he's here or not. Like we've been emphasizing throughout the show, our behavior should be pretty much consistent before and after his reappearance. It shouldn't be this huge jump, because I don't think many people or anyone will be able to make that huge jump overnight. But just to, how long do we have? Do we have very long?
Yeah, we have.
Okay. Just to give an example of how the Imam is still here for us, because sometimes people think, oh, well, if he's in occultation, it's like he's not even here. But he is, because, and I'm sure some people have heard this story before, it's about Sheikh al-Mufid, and when he was issuing rulings, someone came to him, a group of people came to him, and they said that a pregnant woman passed away, and we don't know whether to take the child out or just bury her like that. And he told them to bury her. So they went back to their village. And then a few years later, that group of people came to him with a child. And that child must have been, I don't know, 3, 4, maybe a bit older, maybe a bit younger. And they said, this is the child that came from this woman. So he was confused because he said, but I told you to leave the child where it was and bury her. And then they said, no, you sent a messenger. And the messenger came and told us, actually, no, there's a change of plan, take the child out. And then Sheikh al-Mufid, he was happy, obviously, that this had happened, and he knew that it was the Imam that must have sent the messenger, or the messenger was the Imam to tell them not to bury the woman. And he was relieved that the child was alive. But then he thought, he got a bit scared that what if in future I put someone's life at risk like that again? So he stopped giving rulings for a while. And then narration said that the Imam, told him, no, it's your duty to give rulings and it's our duty to correct them as necessary. And, so the Imam is here. So personally, I don't think there's a massive, massive difference, because even when Ahlulbayt were around, there were so many divisions and they had so many enemies. And even when the Imam's in occultation, it's the same. Our duties remain the same. Of course, it would be very, a true blessing to have the Imam in our presence, to be able to speak to him directly, to be able to see him. But I think that's probably the biggest difference. Otherwise, I think our duties stay the same and the Imam's still here always to help us.
Definitely. It's very true. I mean, even when the Imams and Prophets were present, there's many people that opposed them, there's many people that disagreed with them. But do you feel like there's some people which may use this as an excuse, for example, to say, those who lived in the time of the Prophet, they had it so much easy because they had a Prophet there that they could ask all the questions to and clarify everything, where we at this present time, we refer to scholars and then there's disagreements and we don't have, our Imam is not present. Do you think that people do use that as an excuse to kind of, for many, to justify many of the things they do? Yeah,
I think so. I've heard it. People do use it as an excuse, but the Imam's not here. There's so much disunity, and I think people just become very negative about the whole situation. Of course, it is sad that the Imam isn't with us, but it doesn't give us an excuse to down our standards at all, because like we said, the companions of the Imams have to be impeccable, and if we have any plan or any hope to be amongst them, then we can't use it as an excuse that he isn't here.
Definitely, yeah. For all those watching now, I mean, we've had emails from South Africa and others as well. For everyone watching, what would you say, what would you leave this topic and to end with? What would you say to them all?
To end off, firstly, I would really highly recommend the book that I took a lot of this material from, which was Mikyal al-Makarim by Sayyid Muhammad Taqi Isfahani. And secondly, that our duties before the Imam comes are vital, because until, even me, before I read these responsibilities, I wasn't aware of half of them. And so I think it's really important, as we've kept emphasizing throughout the show, our mindset and our behavior before and after the Imam comes shouldn't really be different, because we say so many times that the Imam isn't here because we're not ready. So it doesn't make sense to say we'll be ready when the Imam comes here. It doesn't make sense. So, going back to the point we made earlier about even small things being, magnified and amplified, I think we need to stop underestimating the power of even small deeds that we do in the name of the Imam, because they can go a really long way.
Definitely. I just want to read out one more email just before we end off, because we are getting some emails coming through, and I think I can squeeze in one more email. So let me read that out. It says, Assalamu alaikum, great show. I really enjoyed today's show. And to be honest, the discussion of Imam Mahdi doesn't usually come up. I had a question. There are many people who do not believe in the Ahlulbayt and say that that there's no such thing as the Imams. So in terms of Imam Mahdi, do other people from other schools of thought really believe in Imam Mahdi? And what is the difference between us and them? And how can we motivate all of us to do a program in the name of Imam Mahdi as a unity? Do you think we can unite underneath Imam Mahdi? So I think it's a very nice email to kind of end off.
It's a really nice closing email. the concept of a savior is just universal among not just Islam, but even other faiths, Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, they all have this idea of a savior. So I think the idea of, having this common ground is definitely possible. It's there. We have so much in common. I think, like you said earlier, the main difference between the school of Ahlulbayt and other schools of thought is the debate of whether or not the Imam was born or not. So I hope that answers your question. And the last part about how do we encourage programs about Imam Mahdi, if you're part of a community, or if you can suggest it to community members who can organize these things, then fine. But like we said before, even if you start it very small, it's really amazing how these things grow. So if you can just start something even with your friends, that's a good start, and maybe inshallah it will get bigger and bigger.
Definitely. And here finally ends off regarding unity. Do you think the Muslim Ummah can unite underneath the concept of Imam Mahdi?
I'm 50-50, to be honest, because everyone's different. There will be some people who are willing to listen to you. There are some people that won't. The people that are, of course, you can cooperate with them, but of course if one person believes that Imam is here living amongst us, the other person doesn't, then I think it would be a bit difficult.
Yeah, definitely. But we thank you so much, Sister Zahira Mamdani, for joining us today. It's been a pleasure having you on. Inshallah, we do have you on in the future.
Inshallah.
And I think it was such a beautiful topic to speak upon, so thank you very much.
No problem.
For the audience watching at home, and just before I end off the show, I just want to say regarding the last email we have, it would be beautiful if someone organized a conference or a program in terms of grouping all the Muslim Ummah underneath one banner of Imam al-Mahdi, and perhaps it will be very successful. So if anyone has an initiative of actually organizing a conference or a program, then we perhaps could do that and then shed light on the concept of the Saviour, Imam al-Mahdi, as the Saviour of Islam in terms of other schools of thought, to raise awareness. But just touching upon on our show today, as our guest mentioned, there are many responsibilities that we have, and we should really reflect upon our lives. Are we really doing enough in the absence of the Imam? And sometimes I really reflect upon my own life before anyone else and our actions, and saying, are we doing enough? Are we really doing enough? And sometimes it puts us to shame that we are lacking in many aspects in the absence of the Imam. We are living in the best generations, as described in many hadith, that this is the best generation where our deeds, we can have so much reward in the deeds that we do. So inshallah, I hope that this topic, we don't have much time, and we've touched upon some areas, but not everything. But I hope this inspires many people to come forward and spread awareness about Imam al-Mahdi. Even if it's a tweet on Twitter, you can go tonight and post a hadith about Imam Mahdi, or even a Facebook update, then a little can go a long way. So inshallah we can see that. The guest did mention some recommended books, and there are many books written about Imam Mahdi, so we can inshallah do a read up inshallah as well. Just to inform our audience that all our shows do get uploaded online, so you can watch today's show or any of the shows that you have missed previously on Women's View. You can catch them all online. So do join us every Tuesday and Thursday with a brand new guest and topic. That's all for today. And with this, I just want to say that inshallah in our du'as we can say that may Allah hasten the reappearance of Imam al-Mahdi, ajallah ta'ala farajah, and inshallah we'll see justice in this world, and we'll see the true Islam inshallah coming with the reappearance of Imam Mahdi. That's all for today, and see you on Thursday with Sister Fatima Morsi inshallah, where we'll be discussing the women of Karbala. So a very interesting topic. See you then. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.